Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates. It's good to be back. It's been a while. We haven't really spoken since the Resurgence, unless you guys of course follow me on my other channels. So I thought it was time to catch up, as we've gotten some quite interesting statements from EA over the last couple of weeks that could actually give us some hope on a potential new Battlefront game. I also wanted to weave Battlefield 6 into this and talk a little bit about some statements about this franchise that could or could not affect the possibility of us getting a Battlefront game. And at the end of the video, I wanted to give you a little update on what I'm up to if you're interested in that too. But without any further ado, let's get into the Battlefront talk. So what is going on in the Battlefront community? We had a massive resurgence earlier this summer and late spring. A resurgence that caused the game to completely explode on social media and pretty much everyone joining in on the Make Battlefront 3 campaign. Play numbers completely skyrocketed and we broke the Steam charts record over and over. So what has happened since then? The resurgence has kind of died down, and like I said during the resurgence, that's completely understandable. People are seeing this and thinking, oh, it's over, the game is dead. And yeah, that's true to some degree, but it's not all bad. This was all expected. Steam charts are still like 3 times higher than it was before the resurgence, even though it looks very bad compared to the top. But keep in mind that this is still an old game that isn't getting any new updates at all, so it makes sense that it would die out. However, the noise that we made is the important. Did it get the ball rolling? Well, potentially it did, and if it did, we won't know about it for probably another year. Something that I will get to later in the video, as I know a lot of people are saying they're completely ignoring us. They're acting like the resurgence didn't happen, and that's not actually true. First of all, and I think this is quite crazy, the one time EA has officially mentioned Battlefront 2's resurgence is actually in their recent earnings call, where they went through their various revenue sources as always, saying that EA's full game bookings, which means basically full game purchases and not DLC, rose by 27% the last quarter, and crazy enough, they said, led by ongoing momentum from Split Fiction and a resurgence of Battlefront 2. That means that out of all of EA's games they have in their portfolio, Battlefront 2 was actually one of the top 2 contributors to their full game bookings the last quarter. So in other words, we made a dent, guys. We made a huge dent. It even showed up in their earnings call, which to the investors and the absolute higher-ups at EA, unfortunately, is the only thing that matters. So one thing is for certain, the resurgence reached the absolute very top of EA. But before we get back to some statements about the potential of Battlefront and more Star Wars games, I wanted to talk a little bit about Battlefield 6 and how it could potentially affect a new Battlefront game. Obviously, we just had the Battlefield 6 beta, which was a huge success. People really enjoyed it, and the general feel on the internet right now is that it's very positive and people are really excited for the full release. And as you probably know, that's all that matters. The social media presence, the reviews, and all that kind of stuff. We all know what it did to Battlefront and other games. It either is really positive or really negative. Obviously, the actual reviews are going to be somewhere in between, but I think one example of this is the Battlefield versus Call of Duty battle. It's a constant battle, and it feels like at every release, one of the games is a success. And the Black Ops 7 trailer was actually released today, and this is the kind of comments you see on it. People just want Battlefield 6 right now. So unless they do something major to screw up Battlefield 6 at release, I'm pretty confident it's gonna be a huge success. But just to be clear, something could happen, something that makes the game flop. Technically, there could be issues, there could be missing content, and so on. But as of right now, Battlefield 6 is in for a potential huge success. So what about Battlefront then? Is this good or bad for Battlefront? I think it's good. Because if we are ever gonna have a chance that EA and DICE in particular are gonna make another Battlefront game, they need to prove that they can actually release and handle a good game. Battlefront 2's release flopped hard, and then they had to put a post-launch team on it to fix it over the years to make it really good. Then we had Battlefield 2042, which flopped a lot harder and as of right now is still regarded as a bad Battlefield game, whereas Battlefront 2 was actually fixed and now has a good reputation. And I think that if they were to do another bad release, EA would start questioning DICE's capability of making games and what kind of projects they would get to take on. Whereas if they succeed with this, it means DICE are back. They can actually release and make good games. And at that point, once the entire release team of Battlefield 6 are done, they could put a big chunk of them onto a new project, like Battlefront, while a smaller team works on the post-launch content. That's how it worked previously, and that's the only chance we have of a Battlefront game happening from DICE. But unfortunately, some news popped up last week about the general manager of the Battlefield franchise saying that they want to make the franchise annual. And this, if it's true, means that Battlefront is dead, at least when it comes to DICE and EA, just to be clear. And I'd also argue that maybe the Battlefield franchise is dead, because it has never thrived on an annual basis like the Call of Duty franchise. And sure, they do have like 4 or 5 different studios working on Battlefield, so I'm sure they could pull it off. I think they would kill the Battlefield franchise. But that statement is not official, so it's not certain that it's completely true, but if it is, it seems like they're basically gonna commit fully to Battlefield. And if they were to release an annual Battlefield game, there is absolutely no chance that they're gonna make a Battlefront 3 or something like that at all. But since it's not official and we don't know, I'm gonna keep that door a little bit open. But in short, I think that Battlefield 6 having a success greatly increases the chances of DICE getting the trust to make another Battlefront game. Back now to EA. Didn't they say no more Star Wars games? Well, last year Andrew Wilson did say that they are moving away from development of future licensed IP that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry. This basically made me and everyone else think that, alright, no more Star Wars games. They're just gonna finish up what they're working on, and that's it. But multiple statements of the year, they've kind of made it seem like that was taken a little bit out of context. Laura Miele over at EA did actually state very recently to Variety that they have a slate of games tied to the Disney and Marvel IP, including the upcoming Star Wars Jedi 3, Galaxy of Heroes, Star Wars The Old Republic, as well as an Iron Man video game and a few others that haven't been announced yet. So they're not just creating the games that they've already announced and started working on, but they've got multiple projects in the works. And we have no idea if one or few of those could actually be Star Wars games. They have mentioned that there are some unannounced Marvel games, so we know that for certain, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't potentially still be getting a new Star Wars game from EA. So what are the chances then of a new Battlefront game from EA, and why haven't we heard anything about it if the Resurgence really made a dent? Well, I think that Mats Helge, our trusty old Battlefront developer out on Reddit, put it very well earlier this summer. That if someone went to Disney right now and said, let's make a Battlefront 3, they would start talking to different studios, asking for pitches, and that's like a 4 to 6 month process. And once they agree with the studio, they start contract discussions. That's another 2 months minimum. Pre-production is another 6 months, and then hitting production and getting an alpha, that's 9 to a 12-month timeline. And only at that point is a publisher willing to announce a game. So if they started today, we would hear the game in like summer 2027. So we did make a dent, we did get the ball rolling. If they picked it up, that's impossible to know, but if they did, we're probably not going to hear about it until 2027. Potentially earlier, because in case you don't remember, the original Battlefront game that DICE made, they announced very early, way before an alpha or beta was even close. I think they announced it only a few months after DICE started working on the game, so we could potentially hear it sooner than 2027. But there's no way we're hearing about it this year, and I would be surprised if we even heard something next year. But other than all of this official stuff, I have heard from reliable sources that the Resurgence was heard all over the place. It reached where it was supposed to reach, and it did have an effect. What that effect is, I can't honestly say right now, but we all did a great job and gave ourselves a slightly higher chance that a new Battlefront game will happen. But that was all I had for the Star Wars news. I just wanted to give a quick update on what I'm up to right now. Other than doing my full-time job, I'm also running 2 other channels other than this one, which is Middle-earth Updates, which is actually closing in on 200,000 subscribers and is probably gonna pass this channel this year. But we also recently started Potter Updates, where we do the same thing, behind the scenes footage and news updates on the new Harry Potter series on HBO. So if you're interested in any of that, consider following those channels. And thirdly, another project, because I for some reason can't stop creating new projects, is actually Kanto Updates. That's my Pokemon nickname, which as of right now is not really gonna be content creation, but more of personal collection updates, as I do trade, play and collect a lot of Pokemon cards, and I will actually even be a vendor at the Card Expo in Sweden on September 27th to 28th. So if you guys have any interest in Pokemon at all, feel free to follow me at Kanto Updates on Instagram, and if you happen to live in Stockholm, consider dropping by the Card Expo to say hello. Free entry for everyone, and you don't have to buy any cards at all. So yeah, that's what I'm up to, that's what EA is up to, and that's the latest update when it comes to Battlefront and what kind of chances I think we have for it. I appreciate you guys sticking with the channel, even though the updates are very sporadic, but I kind of like only making content when I have something to actually talk about. And now I've got all these other channels that I can create content on, meaning that I can focus on where we actually have the news. But my promise still holds, I will always keep you updated with Star Wars games, and if they were to announce a Battlefront game, you bet I'll be back more regularly on this channel. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.